Fairly, please click like and where are you from in the comment section. Hey there, how are you?
Good. How's everyone?
Good. Thank you for.
I'm wearing my hat because my house is freezing. Everyone always asks, "Why do you have a hat indoors?"
Oh, you keep your house intentionally cold?
Oh my God. Well, I'm in my basement. This is like where the training area. I can't even get these things right. In the training area is like I have in my basement, and so I mean you can put the heat on, but by the time it heats up, it's
You're
still
done with
like
work.
in the high 50s. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And being bald like this, so you know, I'll take my hat off though for the interview here.
You're gonna be. You're gonna illustrate some professionalism taking your hat off.
as you right, as I have the exposed insulation with probably shards of fiberglass falling into my area.
What's up there?
So you know what, I've asked a bunch of people, and we were gonna like put the finish is just too expensive.
Oh, I know.
And I was gonna like plastic, but then other people are like, listen, it's really not gonna make a huge difference.
It's a basement. Yeah. I mean, right, you can put your money towards something else that's better.
Yep, exactly.
So how's before we jump into things, how's your current situation? Everybody's obviously home, kind of.
Everybody's home. The kids, probably anybody who's going to listen to this who has his kids will tell it's hellacious. My respect for public school teachers has gone up 15,000%, because they're driving us nuts. They're driving us crazy. But listen, blessings. We're healthy. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what's good. It's tough because my parents are elderly and I used to see them every week, and now we have to but in the scheme of things, compared to what other people are dealing with, and it's nothing.
I know, always could be worse.
Yeah.
I mean, right, count your blessings and that. Yeah, I know, but I keep seeing like flashbacks in the movie Shining.
Oh yeah. You know what it is? I tried to explain this to someone the other day. Is it's just there's no at least for my generation, right? When I'm 48, like I can't think of anything that I can compare to it. I don't really have nothing to balance it or reference it agained, because maybe if my grandfather was still alive, he was, because he was alive during the Spanish flu, or maybe my father who's 90, World War II and being a kid in depression or something. But it's such a weird thing to try to process. I'm having a hard time with that, Yeah,
this is definitely going to go down as a quote unquote historical event for our kids to talk about anyhow. But yeah, you're right. There's nothing. Yeah, like I try to think back, like the gas crunch in the early 70s. Like I can remember waiting, like in line with my parents, and like thinking, like, well, this is weird. we're waiting to get gas. But other than that,
you know what it is? It'd be one thing if it was like this, but say for instance, businesses were still open, but they were just, this was a health scare. But it's just a very weird thing to go for a drive to get something, or just whatever you have to do. And it's literally like barren. It's like, we had to pick up takeout, which I'm not a fan of doing much at this point, but we went a few days ago, and it was at the mall in Danbury, near the mall, the Square Mall where the Barnes and Nobles is and all that. It's like the separate. It was like, I mean, I thought I was in a John Carpenter film. It was like, not that there was people hanging out, but it was so bare. And I was like, is this Escape from New York? It was it's really surreal. But I've been hearing from police friends, law enforcement friends, and that crime, a lot of people are taking advantage of this stuff. Like there's an increase auto thefts and burglaries and stuff. Because think about it. I mean, no one's really checking things. No one's really checking a lot of people aren't even checking their businesses. So, it doesn't surprise me.
It's terrible that people will take advantage of any crisis situation that they can and exploit it, to their benefit. Yeah. Human nature. All right. Okay, so what I want to do, just what I kind of like to do with everybody, assuming that you just didn't jump into FMA, what did you start out? Like most of us, traditional?
Like most people, I started out with Taekwondo when I was a kid.
Okay.
Actually, when I was really young, I got brought to a program. I was a super hyper and just crazy. And this is back before they knew anything about ADHD. And they brought me to a program, and I was so young. I was probably 5 or 6. I don't know what it was. I think it was Taekwondo. The guy was just a madman. I remember just crazy, former Vietnam vet, just, old school, like, blood and guts. And then I did Taekwondo through middle school. And then I did what a lot of kids did. I quit. It went into like sports and played soccer and football with my friends and just, partied and was a delinquent. And then I found somebody. It was weird. I was at a point in my life where I just said, I need some direction. I need some discipline. I knew it for myself. And so at the time, there wasn't a lot around, but I ended up finding a Shaolin Kempo school. So that was probably about 9 years. Yeah, I got like a third
in the Danbury area.
What's that? Yeah, it was actually the school that I ended up purchasing. I ended up becoming the instructor there and purchasing it. I was there from like a 92 to like 2000, and then I purchased it, and I had the school, for so I was working at the school. Bought the school in 2000, and it went through a name change. It used to be Karate America, and we did Shaolin Kempo. And the teacher at the time did modern Arnis. I can't remember who he was with. And so I learned very, 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 very little Filipino martial arts. And the guy's control was terrible. Because I know, like, getting hit in the hands if you're learning, is a traditional way, but his was just no control. You'd be doing a double Sun Wally drill, and he'd whack the crap out of your hands. And what was really weird is I was really, really scared of doing Filipino martial arts because when we practiced, in the little bit that we did, I got hurt constantly, and not hurt like you probably get hurt with David Gould. Not like, okay, you're slow on your recovery and you get smacked in the hand, and you're like, okay, I got to be quicker coming back. But it would be like, for instance, having 6 somebody, and just every single time instead of hitting the stick, their control's so bad they're hitting in the hand. So I was, believe it or not, really scared of the sticks. I was really scared of colleague, because it was a bad experience. And then.
What age were you?
I was probably like early 20s when I first did that.
So early 20s was when you got exposed to what you think was minor Arnis?
Yeah. I know for a fact it was minor Arnis because he talked about it, but I just don't know where his lineage was. I know he went to some camps and some stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
And I did Shaolin Kempo for a while, but I don't want to degrade it. It had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions that it couldn't answer. But I still like the idea of the Japanese martial arts and like in Kempo. And I found a gentleman. When I had bought the school and I was looking for something, and I found a gentleman by the name of Jeff Driscoll. He was in the back of a black belt magazine. Yeah. And it was a system called Koshoru Kempo. Okay. And the head of it, was the Matosi lineage, and the head of it was a guy by the name of Bruce Jutnick. And he is still to this day one of the greatest martial artists I've ever worked with. Just phenomenal. Doesn't look it, it looks like, sort of an overweight, big, typical of what we think of older Kempo practitioners. But his understanding of motion and movement and just timing.
Is he local?
Yeah, impeccable. And he has a very, 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 very good FMA background. I mean, he's an OG. He trained with Angel Caballas, one of the first white guys to train with Angel Caballas in the 1960s in Stockton. He was from Sacramento. He also was one of the very first. You'll have to ask people in the modern East, but he was one of the first guys that when Remy came to the West Coast in the 70s that he trained with. He was an instructor under Remy. I don't know if he got his instructorship, but there's old videos of him. So he's really, really good. Did fencing, and actually was one of the first guys. I think one of the first non-Filipinos that was led into what at the time I believe was the Western Eskrima Association or something of that nature, that Guro Dan and Bentoy Revelar and Dexter Lebong and a bunch of those guys. I think Angel Caballas started in the maybe early 80s. So, and I did that for a while, and not to speak bad of it, but the system, and at the time, right around 2001, 2000, somewhere around that time, I met Chuck Giangreco. And to this day, probably still my teacher. I think I'm one of my very good friends. And
what year?
I met him at an Iburita seminar for
what year again?
Around 2001, somewhere right around there.
So before that, then the Kempo guy I just before we get into Chuck,
Yeah, go ahead.
just from some chronological sense, what was this still kind of during when you owned the school?
Yeah. I owned the school,
Okay.
and I switched over the kosher. I went all in. I always did that in any art I ever went to. Like,
The whole
I just went in and I went all in. And it, like I said, I mean, I can't speak negatively about it. I mean, the concepts and principles I use to this day. It's unbelievably good. You know, but it just didn't have structure. It really lacked structure. It didn't have. It would have been great if you had 3 guys in a garage and an apprentice level. But owning a school, just being bluntly honest, owning a school. It was just too difficult to pass on and teach in a quality manner. And I had to sort of make changes. But at the same time that I sort of got into that, I had met Chuck Greco, and I really wanted to do the Mafalindo CLOT program. I found, you know, he just basically introduced, you know, we started talking at the seminar, and he's like, oh, yeah, I do CLOT.
What seminar? What seminar?
Ibarita Sawanda, Paul Herman's sister.
And, so you guys met, okay, you met there. Okay.
Yeah. So I met him then. And he's like, oh, you should come. I do Mafalindo. And that's really what I was interested in. It's funny because I still at this time was done some of the stick. I was doing some of the Serrata a little bit with Hansi Jutnik, a little bit, I guess what you would call the modern East and stuff. But I didn't have a great interest in it at that time. And then I started doing the Mafalindo, started going down doing private lessons with Chuck. And he was in the SIAC. For some reason, I just never got in the SIAC. I mean, I think the teachers of that system are wonderful, but he was doing SIAC at that moment, at that time.
Yeah.
And I started training with him, and he's under Harley Elmore, who I'll get to in a second. And then he just one day said to me, he goes, you know, you really should do Kali. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, here, let's do some things. I'm going to give you some drills and just go home and practice them. And they were the Amara patterns, which are, you know, what stroking patterns, but those had particular, like 3 counts or the Hawaiian or Kilot, they're called. And I went back, and then I went in there, and I'm not lying. I expected to have my hand broken because that's how it was. I'm like, and he just like took me along, and I was like, wow. I started to see the efficiency of it. You know, started to get involved with Guro Dan. He had Guro Harley out. My mind was blown. And I just sort of went down the rabbit hole. And then at the time, you couldn't test in their individual systems. So I ended up doing the JKD, the Muay Thai, like the Guro Dan blend, the Mafalindo, and the Kali. And so that's how it went. And I owned the school at the same time. And we were teaching both programs at the same time. We had like a black belt club, like an upgrade program for the kids. The adults, I just found the adults like doing more and more of the JKD, you know, not the cross concept, the JKD concepts. And so we went all in. And so the kids did Kali from the very, very beginning. You know, a lot of people tell me, oh, you can't teach it. We did all long range fighting drills. We did, you know, we used padded sticks. In the beginning, and we started them right off the bat because I found that when they did the padded action flex sparring, it got them used to contact and movement. So we really didn't do a lot of the inside outside deflections. We didn't do Hubud. We didn't do Sombrata until they got the junior black belt, because to me, I think they were valuable, but it was more valuable to have them learn how to get out of the way, how to move their legs. So we do hand sparring, lower limb only sparring. Then we do head and arm. They actually got pretty sophisticated. They did fakes. We would sometimes do, like, you know, quote unquote dog brothers with the kids, where they would use the pad sticks, but if they got in close, they could punch with the open hand. You know, they'd have the glove on one hand, they could take somebody down, and they loved it. Most of the kids loved it. I mean, the kids that didn't want to spar, but the kids who liked to spar loved it. You know,
I just want to
emphasize the quality of it. You know, it was like I wanted to do Kali, so we didn't allow them to bang and do rock'em sock'em robots. And they probably, in all seriousness, did more sparring than my adults. Because, you know, a lot of times the adults wanted the curriculum, whereas the kids were just like, whatever you want to teach them. So they didn't mind doing, like, you know, hand sparring for 45 minutes as long as it was cool and it was fun. And so I did.
I just want to slow you down, though, because I definitely want to get to the kids, because I have a section for the kids.
Yeah,
sure. Want to get, so I want to but I definitely want to spend some time with Dan, because obviously he's pretty relevant in your journey. So we got some here. I just want to say hi to Angelando, thanks. Hi Nathan, Gail. Who? Sure.
Gail, tell Gail thank you.
Yeah, who? let me just see if there's any questions. Okay. Before we, okay, so I want to just give some sense of chronological order to the viewers, so they can actually see in a timeline, so to speak. So you're with Chuck. I know Chuck bridged the gap to you to Harley. Okay. Mm-hmm. At what point did you meet where Dan, where you actually made a decisive decision where that's where you wanted to direct your energy, as far as not only maybe pursuit of rank, but be a representative of him?
Maybe like 15 years ago, but I won't say that I necessarily ever thought I would become an instructor, because unfortunately I don't want to say I don't even know if it's politics, but it can be a very much a rigmarole to become an instructor. Like, some people become an instructor, you have no idea how or why, and other people will wait for 20 years and get it. The fact of the matter is, if Harley didn't step up to bat for me, like Carlos, my training brother, Carlos Castro, and those, we wouldn't have been instructors. He basically, the whole idea of the Warriors Way mission statement was Terry Gibson was Drew Harley's instructor. And with him, he was one of the first instructors. I think him and Rick Fay and maybe a few others were the first full instructors under Guro Dan outside of LA. And his mission when he was still alive is to create as many instructors under Guro Dan as he could. So Harley sort of took that on. And so once you became a full instructor under him, which I think we did in 2010 or something, he's like, okay, you guys. So we had been going to see Guro Dan maybe 6 years before that. But I don't know if any of us really thought of it. And then at that point, he said, hey, these are my guys and we want to do it.
Oh, so he wanted you, so to speak?
Yeah, he basically, we wrote the letters, and then he, so I give him all credit, because if it wasn't him, Guro Dan would have been like, this guy, to this day, Guro Dan is like, hey, George, he'll say George, and then he'll call me like John or something. It's funny. But that's really, I swear to God. I swear to God. I mean, just to tell a funny story aside, I'm probably going to get thrown out of the organization for this. So I don't know. Nate probably, who's on here, will knows. Maybe if Gal's been there, she's been to the academy. So at seminars, he has tons. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Right? You go to a seminar, and some of these guys may not see Guro Dan. Like, I'll see Guro Dan 3 times a year, maybe, right? If I don't go to LA, which I don't really. And so he'll have sometimes, not every single time, but most of the time, he'll have like a section of material that he'll just call you up. Might be doing full box and brada. It might be to show some C-lot throws. It might be to do the 15 count in Muay Thai, whatever. But he just wants to see his instructors move.
Okay.
But he doesn't know everybody by name. So you fill out a form and you just put your name, how many hours you're getting for that week, like if you're staying both days, and like where you're from. Like, so I'm the only good thing I have going for me is I think literally I'm the only guy from Connecticut that ever fills out the form. So he gets these guys up here. I'll never forget this. We were in Queens. And me and Carl, I laugh about this every time I think about it. So, these guys maybe have never even had a chance to be in front of Guro Dan. So he calls this guy up. I'll never forget this. And the guy gets up the demo, and I think he had Joel doing all the feeding, his assistant. Guro Dan he's looking at the paper. He never looks up off the paper as this guy demos the whole entire thing. The guy finished. He's like, oh, you're moving great. I was dying. This guy waited, 10 years to go do this. He never looked off the paper. The guy walked off thinking it was like the greatest compliment. And I turned to Carlos, and then I'm like, this poor son of a bitch. I'm like, I don't care. If I ever see him looking at the paper and I go up the demo, I'm stopping and I'm waiting.
Yeah, you feel right there.
So there's times where he's made mistakes. He's called people, he's done that. And it's, I still love him, but so that's how I got involved with it. And then I went to LA a few times to do the training. But most of my training, like I said, that's why if I didn't have Harley and I didn't have Chuck, specifically Chuck, I wouldn't have been able to make the progress that I made. There's no way. I mean,
right. I mean, they were
not a seminar basis. Just wouldn't have done it. You need to have that, or you need to be.
Yeah, I mean, right. They were instrumental in your journey. Yeah, no doubt. So just getting back to Dan. So just for viewers who may want to pursue and all that, and even though they won't know.
Yeah, right.
Even though they won't know, he won't know their name. But even if they choose pursue, how does it work? Like, do you have? I've heard different things, but I don't want to venture to say what is and what's not. It wouldn't be fair and accurate of me. but in order to, do you have to have somebody present you to Dan? Is that kind of works? Is there like a time frame or?
Oh, I don't know about apprentice level instructorship. It's, I know at full instructorship, you'll sit there for a while, so I mean, I think it's 20 plus years for full instructor. I don't think I'll ever get it. I just don't think I'll physically have the time with him. I mean, unfortunately, because of his age, I don't think it's skill, not being egotistical. I just think it's the fact. But, I'm not 100% sure. I know that if you present as an instructor, like I'm hopefully going to get senior associate instructor next year. I know if I have a guy and I want to recommend him, if you write the letter and they write the letter, chances are he knows you, he's going to approve it. Because the apprentice level instructorship is almost looked at like a brown belt. There's not a high bar to get in, whether that's right or wrong. It's just the fact of the organization.
The apprentice?
I'm sorry. Yeah, for the apprentice. He does it like a trade. Think of it like that. So it goes apprentice, associate level, senior associate, full instructor, and senior full. Now, the senior associate, I mean, Dwight might be able to know this better. And I don't know about Burton, but Dwight probably would. But I know that the senior associate and senior full were put in, I don't know how many years ago, but it used to just be apprentice, associate, and full. Yeah, so I think it's about 5 or 6 ranks in between each one. But yeah, the apprentice level, they're a little bit, then it thins out associate, thins out more senior associate, and then at full is the real deal. I mean, most people who make full instructor, if you watch them move and do something, you're like, okay, I know that they have skill. Apprentice, not so much. But there are people that have gone to seminars only and have written him. Maybe they're at areas of the country where there's not other instructors in a close distance, and they've been able to get it. So I can't speak with full authority on it, but it definitely helps if you're underneath somebody.
Yeah, they can present you.
For a few reasons. One, the practicality of that the relationship he already has developed with that instructor. Yeah. But 2, if you care about the quality of what you're learning and you want to actually get skills in it, it really behooves you to have somebody who's going to fill in those gaps that you're going to get at a seminar. Yeah, strategies and tactics and culture and drilling and skill development. You really do need that intermediary person between Guro Dan and yourself, I believe. I mean, I know there's people that have not done that and done well. I think it's not as often. So because I was gonna say, I mean, like, I guess we're gonna get back on target, as far as your influence from him and so on. But it always made me wonder, not in a good bad way, just a pure wondering sense that, like, how these guys that are abroad and all that, like, how are they getting, like, certified? I mean, are they going to the camps? Are they going to go see him in the school, or a little both? He does what he calls instructor camp. So you go and it's like 4 to 5 days. Okay. And he'll cover like 4 or 5 hours a day. So you get like 20 plus hours of training. Yeah. It doesn't make you an instructor. You go as an instructor. He'll look like classroom structure. He'll do drilling, and he'll cover the different areas, the arts he teaches. He doesn't usually do as much Muay Thai, but he'll do like the JKD, the Kali, like his blend of spot. And I think they do the same thing in Europe. Instead of having the guys fly, he'll go there and stay for a week, or like Australia, and he'll do that training. I can't really speak badly, because there's a lot of guys in Europe that are better than the people. Rick Young is in Scotland. Dwight
had him.
Another guy. I can't. What the heck's his last name? I cannot for the life of me remember. But there's a few people there that are just tremendously, tremendously skilled. And, a lot of people too will fly to LA. They'll stay, they'll train, they'll come back. Because what the thing is you can have hands-on, but you got to do your own work. Like Rick Fay's a perfect example. I mean, he's not a person that really, I don't know if you know him. He's from he's
Minneapolis, right?
Yeah, Guro Dan's one of his highest ranked students, if not the highest ranked.
Minnesota, right?
What's that?
Minnesota, right?
Minnesota. Yeah, he's like a compatriot time-wise of like Burton, and he might even be before Dwight got involved. But he's tremendous. But he didn't really go. Yeah, Bob Breen too. Nate said Bob Breen. That's another person.
Bob Breen.
Yeah. But he never really went to the academy. he went to seminars. Now, Guro Dan taught very differently from what I heard in the 70s and 80s because he was trying to get the art out. He was trying to get it out. So whole series. He went back to his school and just trained like a maniac. And, you know, I mean, it shows in the, it shows. But yeah, you know, I mean, this might be, I don't know. I'll say it anyway. I think the organization, anytime you grow as large as it's grown, and you don't have a top-down management structure, that's the weakness of the Inosanto College system. You're going to have very disparate degrees of skill. It's just all over the place. It's just, you know, in a way, it's almost too big. You know, in a way, I don't know if I would have become an instructor if it was smaller of that nature. It might have taken me longer. I mean, but at the end of the day, like I said, I think size-wise, tough to have thousands of instructors without having, like I said, regional managers, middle managers, put in a corporate type of environment and have quality.
Checks and balances. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where the checks, like, this is why, like, and I have the most profound respect for him because of Bert and all that, David Gould, what he's handed down and all that. But for me, and this is not right or wrong, indifferent. Like, I like the smaller systems where you kind of know everybody, you kind of maybe can get that hands-on and all that. If they get too big, I think it'd be overwhelming for me. And I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying I tend to go small, like Abenir, really small. There's 3 of us in the USA.
I think, you know, it's funny, though. I think even with the Inosanto system, I think that you sort of fall in the camps, right? So, you know, you have people that are under Ron Balicki, but instructors in the Guro Dan. We were with Harley, but we were Guro Dan. You have people that are with Burton, but they were Guro Dan White. So you do have your own cliques, so to speak, you know? I'm just not a political player. I don't like the politics sometimes of how organizations are, you know, and the Inosanto system has it just like anyone else. You know, I think that it should be about the training and about the character of the people.
And the bigger they get, the more politics, you know?
Yeah, and there's a need for that because, you know, politics don't make you a better martial artist. You know, they're not going to make you better, and all it's going to do is drive people away. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. That's just my take.
No, I definitely would not disagree. So, all right, we're on Dan. So, all right, so far as so Harley presents you. So for, I guess, are you basically current status? You basically see him at seminars. You don't. Do you go to the camps, or is it more?
No, I haven't really gone to the camps. They're very expensive, and you know, again, between us, I don't know. I mean, I went to some of the CELOC camps, excuse me, a few years ago, and there's so many people, and I found that a lot of the way that it was structured was very similar to a seminar, and I started to think, why am I going to go all the way there to sort of learn the same way? Yeah. So I've tended to do more, like, it wasn't like you're getting like a classroom experience the way you would if you went to like his 12:30 Tuesday Kali class or something. So I've done that more or less through the seminar basis now at this point. And I take sort of what I feel I need from it, you know, because he teaches at a level at the seminars where he's teaching as a blanket. You know, he's not really breaking it down. But what I try to do is just try to find the nuggets. I listen to more to what he says than what he does, because a lot of times he'll say something, you know, like, that's not what he's showing. But every once in a while, you can catch him and he'll show things, and you're like, he gets excited and he'll show something because I think he also wants people to show interest in something beyond doing Heaven 6. I mean, it's got to drive him nuts too. So but that's what I do. I try to go when I try to do that, but I'm always very honest with people. You know, I try to explain to people. I mean, he's more like Yoda. You know, that's the relationship. It's not like he's a direct teacher who's gonna just open up doors for you in the way that your direct teacher would. You know, he's not gonna sit there and correct your hand position and go, George, you know, when you do that fake, you need to turn this much. It's never going to happen. That's not what he does. He gives you the bigger picture. Yeah. You got to take those keys. And I think just unfortunately, there's a lot of lazy people that blame him for their inadequacies. Truly. You know, I think there's people like, for instance, that go, oh, this doesn't work. This is, you know, we swear in here like, oh, this is bullshit. But it's like, no, you know, you don't even know why you're doing it. You're blaming him. And I think that people have to sometimes look beyond what their teacher's just giving them instead of just going, oh, God, you know, oh, there's.
I have a very simple answer to that. It's your journey, and you're responsible for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The moment you start putting blame on somebody else, that's time and energy you could have put actually into your development or trying to seek ways to improve yourself instead of blaming. So yeah, that's pretty simple. But Burton told me, you know, an interesting thing, and I think you'll appreciate this. And one of the talks with Burton was that, you know, he gives you everything. It's up to you to pick out what you like and what works for you, and then on that to refine it and all that. And I think, and I'm not saying I know this, but what you allude to, I bet you there's some guy that just sit back there and they just expect that through osmosis, it's just going to like,
yeah,
but they're just gonna, you know.
Yeah, he does give it. You know, he does give it all. I mean, in a seminar, do I think you can get what Burton got? No, no way. I mean, I don't think what Cosmogda got in that group of people. That was a very like Mark McKay, you know, Mark McKay was talking about it. Very special time, different. Guro Dan was a different person. I mean, Guro Dan was in his late 40s, so the way he taught what he did was very different. But you can ask questions. He'll answer them, not always the way you want, but he'll answer it, you know, and he likes, you know, I try to do more technical and specific answers or cultural answers with it. But you're right, you know, it's your journey and you got to look at stuff on a few different levels. You got to look at the surface, but you got to look below the surface, right? You got to say, okay, there's a drill, but what is that drill teaching me? And really what it should be is, drills should be created based upon what your weakness is or what you need to improve from your sparring, not the other way around.
Right.
You don't take a hoop bud, try to put it in your sparring, right? You don't try to take some brada. If you're sparring and you, you know, see that you have a particular weakness on recovering from an angle one because you're over swinging, right? You're leaving your 12 inches of form, like you know, Mako talks about or whatever, and you do it over and over and over. And then you can, I don't know, you can create a drill around that, right? You can recreate a drill of recovery. Then that makes sense because now it's improving a specific skill set that you're seeing under resistance with a resisting opponent. And then you progressively build on it. But what's happened is that you have too many people that want to do drills for the sake of doing drills. There's two things that drive me nuts about our system. Too many people want to move exactly like Guro Dan, and you're not an 83-year-old, 5'2" Filipino that's 120 pounds who has arthritis, and you see they move like them, their mannerisms, like you're not getting it. You're not getting the essence of what you do. And then the second is people that think that the drills themselves are the ultimate goal. That's why, like, I love Hubud. I'm one of those rare guys that love it because I think it does really, really teach valuable skills. But I think when you are doing every disarm, every throw, every single option out of it and disarms, and you're acting like you've gotten something, who's attacking you in that structure? Where does that structure present itself? Now that structure presents itself when you're dealing with knife work, when you're clearing barriers, when you're learning sensitivity, yes, but not against mutually the same structure. Does that make sense to you?
No.
And we're doing this. That's great. But that's a superficial level. Or like Sombrada. Sombrada is a concept of movement, and it's not meant. It was only in a set pattern because Guro Dan taught in a seminar. You know, I mean, it's counter for counter. What you should do is, like I said, you do the drill, you do it under progressive resistance. You're trying to hit the hand, but maybe all of a sudden, you know, you have one angle what you really want to progress with your cruzada. So you try to put that in within your sparring. You say, okay, my timing's off, my footwork's off. Okay, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to drill that. Then I go back. Not the opposite way around where you do a full box pattern and go, well, it doesn't work in sparring. Of course it doesn't. It's not what it's even meant for. So, but again, I'm a big responsibility guy. If I suck, blame me. If you like what I do,
it's your journey. You're responsible for it. You want to get better? You know what? Put the work in and all that. Yeah, I have a very simple answer for those people.
Yeah.
I want to get back to,
you know, as far as Guro Dan goes, is like, you know, his influence on me has just been like to be a good human being. You know, a lot of people bring up the arts he studied and all those things. It's just, you know, I think of being a good human being, and I falter many times. I mean, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I can anger easy. I can be petty. Like, you know, I can do all the bad things that humans are. But when I look at how he's led his life, he says no one's not been perfect, but just the humanity is really what I try to emulate. Like, okay, you know what? I got to be better at this. I got to elevate it. It's not even just the skills, because the thing that we have to understand is like, yes, you can strive to have those skills. and you should, but you'd have to have lived his life to completely have what he has. It's just that's but you can be the best version of you.
Yeah.
But you can't. That's we bring up like Villabrea or Illustrissimo or Gahi or Salute. You couldn't be them in a million years, even if you wanted to, because you haven't lived their experience. But what you can do is learn through their experiences and the skill sets that they've left you, and go at the highest level of your own journey, not a copy of them. You know what I mean? So I think like with Guro Dan, I mean that's what the influence is, because I don't have the same life. I don't know if I'd want to study 46 different systems, but the idea of being open-minded, of treating people with respect and dignity, of looking at the good side of something, not the bad side, right? What can I get and learn from this and give back rather than just taking? That's what I've got from Guro Dan, really.
No, good stuff. Just I want to ask you about Sabrata. And this is not terribly important. It's more of a curiosity on my part. Did he develop 3 count because people were having difficulty with the 5 count, so he created 3? Is that accurate?
I don't know. I mean, what I've heard is that listen, I don't know if he necessarily created it, because Sambrata is in the Sarada system. There is old video of like Angel Cabales at a demo just going on. Look, really is good, really good, and it's basically the full box. But from what I heard is, it was more or less, it started to change in the seminar format. So they needed a count. And yes, I do think that the high box is just made to make it simplified, so you're not dealing with the low line attack.
I'm just thinking, like, if you had a mass amount of people in a seminar back in the day, I mean, they were 100 people, whatever. I'm just thinking maybe that made sense where he would just come up with a 3 count. I'm not
100% sure if that became the seminar, but I know like a lot of the drilling, right? A lot of the drills that you see that were compartmentalized, like the Sombrata drills, the Bisudario drills, the way they're presented was made a little bit more for the seminars. Because, I mean, when he started teaching and it became popular, from what I heard, I mean, he had 200 people, that would show up. And so things had to change for him in order to teach it, whether that's good or, what it's led to,
Yeah.
But his teachers are funny, the way, you talk about training with David Gould is a lot of how Guro Dan talks about how his teachers taught him. They'd hit him in the head, they'd smash his hand and go, now see how that affects your respiratory? There's a story where he got smashed so hard in the hand by Villabrea that it was like, now see how that affects your respiratory? And he's like, as he's gasping for air, as he's wondering if his hand is still there, but Guro Dan the one thing you find, he's a very kind person. Doesn't want to hurt people. I think that's one of the reasons he doesn't teach knife work as much as he does. And the other thing is, I just think he really realized that the Western person, if you wanted, because he wanted to spread these arts, he wanted the public to see these, he wanted people to appreciate the Filipino culture and the effectiveness and the beauty of these arts. He just knew. Same when Remy Presses came over. He's like, you can't be smashing people in the hands. He didn't want to teach knife because of that reason, Presses. So he, I think those guys realized, okay, we have to sort of change it and make it so it's more palatable. And, and what happens with that? Like anything, you lose some effectiveness. When jiu-jitsu becomes more and more of a sport, not that they can't handle themselves in the street confrontation, but you lose a little bit about, the positions that are good at dealing with punches or dealing with a street fight. But I don't know if it's change or evolution, but that happens. And I think that happened with Kali. So it's important as individual teachers to go back, because you have smaller groups and you don't have an excuse to say, I can't teach like that. You can. If you have 30 people, you can teach. Go back to those ways and take the essence. There's a safe way of practicing sparring. There's a safe way of doing it. And there's a way to make it fun. But I don't think drills should be degraded, because you have different people. You may have someone who's 75 years old and has Parkinson's, right? Even with all the protections of sparring, it may not be good for them. They may not have the stability, but getting up there and saying, here, we're going to learn single Senwali or double Senwali, or we're going to learn double stick drills just to get your balance, is a benefit. And now I think what holds Kali back, there's a lot of thuggery in Kali now in Filipino martial arts. I mean, you got guys walking out there like they're, SEAL Team 6 and, acting like they're murdering people. And it's funny because that's all that people want to get away from. They wanted to get away from that. That's the only way you can make a living back in the day, was cracking heads and collecting money and loan sharking and whatnot. And it's all go back to that. What are you going to prove? What do you got to prove? I mean, the effectiveness is there if you train it right? You do it in Lamenko. If you do it right, there's a price to pay for effectiveness. if you're willing to pay that price, that's what it is. But you don't need to make it more than it is. You don't need to act like the personas. No. If you can do it, you can do it. If not, there's no need to be your rooster tail up and acting like an idiot. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with on that, though.
3, 5, and 6, and so on. Yeah, yep, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Hey, Jesse. Hope you're well. Yeah, I agree with you on a thing like whether you want to use a phrase that's getting lost in translation. No, it's getting watered down. Whatever coined phrase you prefer and all that. But you have to look at it from reality base, which I understand. Like if you got students and this is your living, I mean, you got to be kind of careful, like how extreme you're going to emulate, like the old way,
right?
You know what I mean? See, Gould, he doesn't care. Yeah, he doesn't need to do this for a living. He doesn't need you as a student. You're either, this is what we're going to do. You're either going to do it, or I'm not going to see you again in Mississippi.
Yeah. And it's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody. That's why I think it's okay to be honest in the type of people you're teaching and what they want to get out of it. But I think it's important to stay to the essence of the art. Even if you're going to use padded sticks, right? Like, for instance, you may not fight with double stick, but if you're going to do double stick drills, make them as functional and practical as you can while making them fun for everybody to do. And still people can still have fun with it and enjoy it. Make it true to the essence of what Kali or Screamer Arnice is, without having you don't have to start turning around flipping the sticks up, because then it becomes something that's completely not of the scope of what you're trying to teach. Yeah,
it's oriented.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get back to you though. Thank you. I thought you brought some really fantastic things about Dan and the history there and the influence and impact. I thought that was some really good stuff. I want to get to your school, because I have a profound, when I had my school, we taught kids, Kali, and I have a profound, I think it's just great what they can get from that and all that. I don't know if you caught hellfire for doing that, but I remember when I was doing it in like 2002, people were just like, how could you, you know what I mean? And all that. But like, what was your initial?
I didn't really get any pushback. I wouldn't teach knife to the kids. I just refused.
No, it was just sticks.
Yeah, I just did sticks, and we mostly did padded sticks, and we did double stick and single stick drills. The striking, I didn't do like Pontoon, and I think that the fine motor skills of doing that were too much. So we did Muay Thai, and we did boxing and Jeet Kune Do type of training, and I did grappling because I have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. So we did wrestling and grappling, which I think, truthfully, for children is probably the most valuable skill set, self-defense wise, out of anything you could teach them. Yeah. And then, we did clinch. We did a lot of stuff. It was almost like an MMA program, but I refused to teach the college. A lot of people are like, why are you teaching the college? Like, I'm not going to not do it. I love it, And the funny thing is, a lot of my kids got better than my adults because we sparred all the time. Yeah, so they had better timing.
Yeah. No, when I did it, matter of fact, it became, I had very similar to you. Maybe I didn't have the Muay Thai component as much as you did, except the infamous kick. Had the grappling because of John and the ground and all that. But the favorite module was the Action Flex, the SICK program. That was like, they loved it. You know what I mean? So what did you see? Now, when you started teaching your kids this and all that, was it mainstay? So every kid that came into the program, were they doing that essentially?
Not in the very beginning. It was more of an upgrade program. And then I just got sick of the sort of running, we call it a black belt club program. And then I went to a certain rank. They were about maybe 6 months in, and we started doing the college.
They could do it then?
Yeah. So it was like 6 months in. They were like, we would be our orange belt, like third belt, white, yellow, orange. And then they would get a headgear. Let me see if I have it, the one we used. Hold on a second.
Sure.
So we use this one. It's like a Pro Force. Wasn't good for regular still. Let me see. Here we go. Wasn't good for regular because the stick thrust would fit through this, but it was good. They could use it for kickboxing and stuff too. And we got this, and we got an Action Flex. Even before they got regular sticks, And then they would just learn the angles of attack. And then from there, we did hand sparring, and we would do meet and follow the force, roof block drill. So roof to roof, roof to shield, roof to shield. Just exchanges. I wanted them to learn how to exchange and move and footwork and stuff like that. And, you know, they weren't great in the beginning, and then they would just get better over time. And then we added like double stick drills and things of that nature.
The thing I wanted to ask you is I just want to see if you found parallel in your conclusions. I ran it separate in the beginning. In other words, I was running out of Tampa pilot program, and it wasn't mainstream in the rest of the kids. However, I made the transition of making it mainstream and all that. In the beginning, did you? And this is what I found. I'm just curious what your findings were. The kids that were in it the longest, did you find their sense and depth and understanding of range and all that, their footwork was more acute than the general population per se?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. All right, I found the same. It was like night and day. You know, they like their takeoffs for maybe to go for a double leg. They seemed like their range was just more acute.
Oh yeah, that's why I started it too. You know why? When we started sparring, we started with the collie, like with the action flex, because I found that it was easier for people to get used to contact and range, and there was less consequence. You know, getting hit with the action flex hurt a lot less than getting you know, punched. You know, getting punched in the face. So yeah, I found it. You know, I found that the mix was really important. I found the striking, the grappling, and the collie was important. The collie to me was for the kids was very attribute development, probably more so than it was for the adults. Like a lot of adults want to do collie for the self-defense and for that, but the kids, you know, I told them straight up, you're 10, you're 12, you're not picking up a piece of rebar and bashing a guy over the head. But I just, you know what I mean? So, but the grappling was much more self-defense based. I'm like, listen, you know, someone goes to slap you in the face, take them down the ground, control them for 30 seconds, keep everything calm. So, but I found that the attribute development from doing that for the kids was really good. They got their coordination, you know, coordination really, really dialed in. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I found similar conclusions. Okay, so let's get back. So, all right, obviously, I think most know on here. I just want to see if we got any latest comments here. Thank you, Frank. Yes, it's a good
Frank.
discussion.
Hi, Jeff.
Gymnastics? Sorry, Guru Jeff.
Guru Jeff, tell what you're talking about. What's Gail talking about up there?
Yeah, Gail is always. We're not sure. Okay, let's. I'm trying to be a good group. Oh, fantastic. So I know you sold the school. I know that obviously that was an easy process you went through. But what currently, I want to get some time allotment for your demo because we're coming up on 10 of. So with the school being sold now, like what do you like from your own personal journey per se? Like what are your goals? What do you think you're gonna do?
Well, we're thinking we might be moving out to the Southwest as a family to Arizona. So, you know, I don't know what the training is. I've sort of done some preliminary research, but I don't know what the training is gonna, you know, go to entail. You know, what I want for my own personal journey, I'm not really as concerned about teaching as much. I mean, I'll do some seminars, but I really want to get maybe two or three guys to continue my development, really. And then if it goes to something, but I've taught for so long in a format where my whole livelihood relied on it that I don't really want to go back to that. Don't want to teach kids per se again. So I want to continue within the arts that I'm doing because I still love them. I still want to pursue Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I really haven't thought of, you know, do flamenco with yourself. So, I mean, I haven't really thought of, you know, okay, what specific things. Like, I don't have goals like that as far as like, I want to get this instructorship or get this belt. I just really want to continue my training as long as I'm physically and mentally able, you know. Some of it's going to be maintenance, right? Because some of it is just, okay, I want to be able to maintain and not drop off.
Yeah,
and then there's things I always want to refine and get better at my collie, get better at my C-lot. I don't have as big an interest anymore in going hardcore into Muay Thai because I just feel like it was beating my body up. But I want to continue to progress as, you know, with the grappling and so forth. But I don't know. I've never been – it's a good question because my goals have always just sort of been I want to maintain the ability to just keep training. And I feel like if I can keep training, I'll keep progressing because I'll make the corrections I need to correct. You know what I mean? I don't have an ego that way. If I need to do something, I'm going to do it, you know, and I don't have an issue like even this quarantine. I mean, it's not ideal, but I didn't mind. I'll figure out a way to train and do stuff. So if I go out to Arizona and there's no one there for a while, guess what? Bob will be my best friend until I find somebody.
Speaking of Bob, I have an appointment with him tonight. Yeah.
I did some rounds with him earlier today, so I'm pretty much done after this.
I tell you, next time there better be improvement next time. Dave,
I know, right? We need some live people. Yeah, tell me about it.
I'm like, if he doesn't, I'm like, that's it. I'm not going to get better. I'm checking in.
Exactly.
All right. So what do you got planned for us? I know we talked about maybe we're going to show some solo stuff. Whatever you want to do, so whatever you.
I really didn't have anything planned. I mean, the problem is like I said, I only have my kids and they didn't want to do anything. So I'll move this over. I'll see if I can. Hold on. I got to unplug this though.
Okay.
I had it plugged in. Hold on a minute. Move this over here. As you can see, this is all. I'll show everybody. This is all messy. I had all my gear. I put the tennis ball up. I was inspired after seeing your thing. I jury rigged the tennis ball up there, so that worked. But you know what I like to do? It's not as much necessarily a collie, specific to collie, but one of the things I think a lot of times is conditioning for the hand. So can you guys see this thing here? Can you see me here? Yeah,
absolutely.
So what I did is I took a mat. I have these extra mats that I use so people don't roll them for grappling.
Okay.
About 1.5 inches here, and it's pretty dense. But I put it up against the wall at about head height, and I use this to practice. I do a few exercises just to practice like short range power. So I do the chain punch, but I don't roll it like Wing Chun as much. I just punch from the hip and drop. I use the middle knuckle. I just want to hit with the middle knuckle, but I like this so that you practice like short range power. So you're aligning it with your hips and your shoulder. And I just try to do like 100 of these a day, like here. And I don't hit with a lot of, I don't like tense. I relax and intense at the last moment. And I just do that here or here. And then what I'll do is I'll bend my body. I'll put the punch in compression. And then what I do is I'll lean into it and then push my hips back. So I'll be here like that. And I'll just push.
Oh, okay. You're pushing
extend the punch out. So it's like I'm not really trying. It's like almost like a reverse push up. But instead of going slow, I use one hand and I use the hip to push it back, like that. So because you know what the thing is, a lot of times we're used to punching bags. You know, we do. I know I'm like sort of out of frame here. I'm just trying.
No, but I
see my hands a little bit.
A
lot of times. Can you see it better? Let's see. I never. There we go. But like a lot of times, people back up and they throw their punches this way, which is very important. You know, like they're hitting focus mitts. But I just like this because if you get into a trapping range or you're in a closer range, the ability to just generate power, you know, hit with a dense punch, I think is important. So I do that. Then I set up my bags over here. I'm just gonna walk over here for a second. It looks like I have like a horror movie, like The Hostel. So I took a tie pad and I literally taped it to the post. And I use the same thing. What I do is I do 3 levels of punches. I'll also see if I can do that for a second. I know this isn't like weapon specific, but
no, you know what? Don't worry about it.
This is a thigh pad for Thai boxing, which really doesn't work that well for it. And I put it at about knee height. And then I took the thigh pad and I put it here. And what I do is when I practice my punches is I do them from three distances. So I back up to about hip, like I'm drawing a bow and arrow, and I'll punch from here. And I'm all trying to get hip action. So it's just sort of relaxed. I'm not tensing like that. So here, then I pull right to about midline and I pull and I punch from there and drop it in. And then I go right from about, not necessarily like a 1-inch punch, like that. And I'll do that on both sides. And I'll do it with the foot forward, and I try to move my shoulder into the punch. And then this is what I practice for my knees. But I have to tell you, I find what this has helped with is even with like swinging a stick, because when you think of like an angle 1 or 2, I'm just going to back this up so I can show you guys what I mean. It's like when you know, when you swing with the stick, what I find, we've talked about this before, me and you specifically, but a lot of people, they do very big 1s and 2s, and they make their X pattern is very big, so it leaves the hand totally exposed. But I find that when you start to practice punching from the hips, it's the same thing. Like if you have your stick here and you have your foot for it, you're swinging as close to your knee and your body as possible and bringing it up so the recovery time is less, rather than bringing it up and cocking it and swinging it or swinging it. You have the ability to pull it back or then recover your center. But it's the same dropping energy that you use like on your punch. So the same, that energy, it's the same structure as that, as you drop the hips. Instead of having the torque, big torque with your hips, you can get like a short hit and get the same amount of power. So I try to, you know what it is I have so many different things that I train in that I try to find things that carry over. So instead of spending 3 hours training, I could train for an hour, but specific things that I know can go from kickboxing to Kali to grappling, you know, like fundamental exercise for my hips that I know will help in grappling and kicking and in punching. So, but I do a lot of, you know, now I'm doing a lot of shadow boxing, which I think is valuable, you know, and so shadow boxing, I try to do like not just strictly like just boxing or just Carenza, but I'll do stuff like, you know, more like footwork motion for C-lot. So like, for instance, I'll just see if everyone can see this. You can tell me when you're sick of me, but, you know, like, I know, like, you know, for instance, like triangles. Let's see if just tell me, Dean, when you can see my feet and my lower body.
Right there, perfect.
So like, you know, when you have like the female triangle, here, a lot of people will practice it this way, or they'll trace it like this. Step, step, step. What I try to do sometimes too is just do like a Tiga for C-lot. So I'll do these to warm up, but then I also will like step, you know what I mean? I'll step out, sweep, step, and then sweep back.
I got you.
And the triangle turns with you. So you can consider the open triangle, or you consider the point of the triangle there. So I can turn now, face this direction, sweep up, step, sweep back.
Okay.
And so I try to do those too. Those I think are valuable just because it puts you in position. If you have to have visualization, good visualization. But I find that those are good when you don't have a partner, just to learn how to have the proper forward lean for your sweeps and stuff. And C-lot, and for us in the Inosanto system, the 7th area is empty hands. So a lot of the throws and takedowns are pretty much very, very, very similar to C-lot. So
no, that last thing you were doing, that looked
it's this shape pretty much. It's like the male triangle, and you I just draw these on the wall. This is not supposed to be like a hood or something. So there we go. But it's it's like the width of your shoulders and length between your feet. So like, for instance, you don't make it very big, but you can do all of your basic sweeps. You can do, for instance, if this is the point of the triangle right here, where the end of the stick is, if we could see it, you know, you can step to it. You can turn your body sideways, step to it, sweep, step back, and then your back sweep goes back to the point of the triangle. Then you can switch your guard. Step to the point of the triangle, sweep, step, so you have your forward pressure, sweep back.
And sweep back. Okay.
It's like a bazette or a back sweep into a foot sweep. And
I was just going to say, it looks like
you do a side lean this way, so it's like your Kinjit opening up, right? Sliding back. So instead of stepping forward, you step with a side lever, and then that would be your opening for your Kinjit this way.
All right. So you say side lever, beset back. Okay.
And then you beset back that way.
Gotcha.
You know, it's just a way of practicing, because a lot of times I don't have partners to do these on. And so it's just a good way to just reinforce the movement patterns. So, you know, you don't do, what's that?
You got quite a setup down there.
Yeah, I have a lot of room. I have a lot of room, luckily.
No, I know, but when things end, should get a group of us. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I want to have everybody here. Actually, I want to, I have a pretty big yard too. So I want to have something where we can get everybody together,
sure.
on the sort of in the group from the East Coast and do
So,
some training.
So we're talking about what?
The thing I try to do with when I do the my solo training, because we're all doing solo training. I just try to, like I said, I try to do things that carry over, and I try to be specific on getting good with it, not just to get through the motion. So I think a lot of shadow boxing carenza is really, really valuable, and not going fast, like 20%, 25, 40%, 50, 100%, dial it back. Sometimes use pressure, lack of pressure. Sometimes be light on the feet, sometimes be heavy. Because I think, like, for instance, in Kali and in Arnisa and Screamer, we don't do enough heavy. We're always thinking we got to jump and move and stuff, but there's times where you can't. If you were on ice, if you were in an environment with gravel, like with the Bahalina system, what they called the fundo, we people laugh at that. Like, oh, you can't be in a karate stance, but what?
Everybody's got an anchor style to their system, though. I mean,
you can't back up. There's times where you can't back up or you can't move. So sometimes being heavy and understanding how to hold your ground and use the hips and motions swaying back and forth, like an elastico, it's important. So yeah, I try to do all that. I mean, I didn't mean to keep ranting and raving.
No, this went really well, I think. I just want yes, Sila, yes, Fernando, Sapu Baset, yes. Small, recover small, swing small, recover small. Reel the circles with stick, swing big, recover small. It's knife, swing small, recover small.
Yeah, can I just tell you? Can we go through for 5 seconds the pet peeves of the Kali Arnis FMA sayings?
Okay, so all right, I'm ready. 5 things.
The one thing that I can't stand that I hear very often is the stick represents the blade. I hate that.
Well, go see Dave and come back and see if they'll still say that.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? I think it's an oversimplification of a bigger sort of quandary. And the thing is that they really are two different tools. And if you have that idea, it's not. I think that actually sets people back. I mean, I can't stand when people say that, because you really have to deal with
no argument here.
The way you generate power, the way you move. Because you were talking about, like, recover small, swing small, recover small. But it's different, because if I'm swinging with a stick, what I was talking about was just with the stick. I would not swing a blade like that, because one, you don't need to. With the stick, you have to hit with the tip the last 3 to 5 inches, maybe not even 2 inches, to rip someone's nose off. And you have to accelerate the tip as quickly as you can, but that's a drawback, because anytime you swing with it, you have to swing with power. Therefore, it leaves more and more opportunities and openings for the opponent to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And then with the blade,
you're going to be a violation of center, because you have to pull the momentum.
Correct. So I that saying has always driven me a little bit nuts, because I think it's just people trying to cover all their bases without really thinking through that problem.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, they're right. As we know, they're different, and you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
But this was fantastic. I really appreciate this. So what I do is, I take this, I convert it over, and then onto YouTube, and then of course I'll post the link to your page and a couple of the other page there, but and then you'll see it there, kind of like I don't have to do any editing. Everything's been going pretty smooth, where I don't have to edit anything, which has been a good thing. But this is fantastic. I think we had a decent group, people. Yeah. I really appreciate it, Vico. Thank you. But again, I thank you for joining us and taking the time to do this. Hopefully, this will end soon, and we can actually get some training in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and thank you, whoever is on there. Let's see, I'm looking right now,
Jeff,
Nate and Jalendo and everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. And I think Kirk McCune's up there somewhere too. Master Kirk, great guy. Someone you should have on if you had an opportunity. Phenomenal.
I think I sent him, and I could have sworn I did. I got a couple down the line, him being one, if I haven't already, and oh my God, he just posted a video today. Oh goodness, Guy Chase.
Yeah, they're all good. There's a lot. You know who else? Modern East, a good guy, really very good, articulate guy. I mean, tells great stories too. Is Tim Hartman. If you get a chance, he's a really good guy too.
I got Brian Zielinski coming down the line, but I can get Tim too.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I love it. I just love the fact that all the different Filipino martial arts are coming on here, and people, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to bring, you know what I mean? You're always going to have people that just don't want to hear it. They don't want to be part of it. But you know what? That's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But all right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, my friend.
All right, hopefully, we'll actually be able to swing weapons at each other sometime soon.
I'm hoping.
All right, brother.
Be good, my friend. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. Stay safe.
You too.
All right. That was a good one. That was actually, I learned some things there. So that was good. Thank you all that watched it. If you have not, please hit like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Next week, I think I have 2 people. Burton's Friday, and I think I have Jamie Morse, LeMaco under Dino Flores. I have I think it's gonna be Thursday, but I'll have that soon. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.